let's talk for a few minutes about Ocugen. So Ocugen, the ticker there is OCGN. Yeah, Brian just sent it out. Great. So Ocugen has received a lot of attention from investors lately. The shares have skyrocketed, just absolutely skyrocketed, well over 500%, at least as of earlier this week. I haven't looked at the stock this morning. The company partnered with an India-based company called Bharat Biotech, and they're planning to co-develop and potentially co-market Bharat's COVID-19 vaccine, Covaxin, in the U.S. So, Brian, what do you think Ocugen's prospects are with this vaccine?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really small company, $2 billion market cap. So we were talking about Moderna earlier is $70 billion market cap. So you can see the potential upside is even after the 500% increase is still quite large if they can develop a COVID-19 vaccine plus get a decent sized pipeline like Moderna has. Covaxin has received emergency use authorization in India. It's an inactivated virus, so that's completely different than Moderna's or Pfizer's, which are mRNA based, or Johnson & Johnson's, which is DNA based. So this is the actual coronavirus that's been inactivated. It can be stored in a refrigerator, which is also a plus. It doesn't have to be frozen. They haven't done any clinical studies so far in the United States. Ocugen, while they were in talks to license it, started discussions with the FDA about a potential path to authorization and approval. But as far as I know, I didn't see any actual details there. So we don't really know exactly what the FDA would require. I think it's probably a long-term play if this is a multi-year issue, and which seems likely with the variants. I think you can definitely see an opportunity for Ocugen to run a clinical trial in the U.S., which I think is probably what the FDA would require, and then be able to sell it in a year or maybe more. I think the issue there is going to be just with running clinical trials. It's going to get a lot harder to run them because, one, you're going to be competing against the actual vaccine. So, do you want to go into a clinical trial where you have a 50% chance or even a 30% chance if they do a 2-to-1 ratio of people who get the vaccine versus people who get the placebo? And plus, you don't even know whether the vaccine works, or do you want to go get a vaccine that you can get a hold of right now? So to test it on older people is going to be really difficult right now because older people are eligible. And then as we go along, more and more younger people are going to be able to get the vaccine. And so it's going to be harder and harder to get the clinical trials. And then on top of all of that, on top of getting the recruiting, then once you get it all recruited, now the infection rate will hopefully go down because so many people have the vaccine. And so now because they're event driven and you need a certain number of events in the placebo group, and then hopefully less, 50% or less in the vaccine group. Now you have to wait much longer time to accumulate all those events in the placebo group because the infection rates are so much lower.
Yeah, Brian, you've hit on I think an important issue that many investors might not be thinking about. The first movers, the Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, Novavax, they've already either pretty much completed their studies or are very close to doing so. They're not going to they didn't have the same kind of problems that companies like Ocugen and some of these second and maybe third tier companies will have. And it's going to be a much steeper climb for them, for companies that are coming behind the first movers, right? Yeah. And I don't think we should underestimate the difficulty and challenges there.
Yeah, you see this a lot in orphan drug indications too, where the first orphan drug then has a huge advantage over the other over second generation orphan disease drugs because there's so few patients, and so that cuts out a lot of these patients want to take the drug, and so then sometimes companies have to compare their drug to the standard of care. So that way people know they're either going to get the standard of care or they're going to get the new drug, which may or may not be better. And so then that'll help bring in some of the cases. But I'm not sure that that's really a reasonable strategy for COVID-19 vaccines, because if you're comparing to vaccine, then you don't know what the rate of potential to get COVID-19 is. And so I don't think that's really possible. Maybe you could do like a 3 ratio where you do some people get placebo, some people and 2 people get the vaccine. there's three cohorts. One gets the vaccine, one gets the new vaccine, one gets the old vaccine, and one gets placebo. But even then, I'm not sure how that really would help you enroll the study and get it completed in a quicker time.
Right. The other thing to remember with Ocugen is that they do split the sales or split the profits with Bharat Biotech. I think Ocugen will get 45% versus 55% for Bharat. So even if all goes well, they're not going to make all of the money, assuming there are sales in the U.S. going forward. So something for investors to keep in mind as well.